from the Denver Broncos Media Center, welcome to Broncos Country Tonight with Ryan Edwards and Benjamin Allbright.
Welcome to Broncos Country Tonight. Wish we were coming to you with better news, but the Broncos fall to the Baltimore Ravens 23-7. It is the first loss of the season. And Benjamin, it was a tough one because the Broncos had some more injuries and performance otherwise was not up to the standard I think they wanted.
We said this game was going to be a bit of a litmus test, and they got a bit punched in the mouth. I think it's a good thing, though. I think a loss like that early in the season is a good thing because it determines whether or not you're a team that's going to correct your mistakes and become a championship caliber football team, or whether your team that's like, well, we can beat bad teams and we'll just mail it in from here. And going forward, it will. You can see this in boxing. Somebody gets punched in the mouth for the first time, and they either shake it off, get in their corner, work it out, come back out there and win a title fight, or they wilt. They go out there, they're ducking around, they're trying to hide in the corner, and you can see it. What team are the Denver Broncos going to be? We're going to find that out over the next couple of games. I think this is a good thing. I don't want to, it sucks to lose, but you were going to lose games. So get punched in the mouth early and correct that stuff. We'll see what kind of team rises from the ashes of this loss.
I like the motivational angle on this. Social media has obviously taken the opposite way, which is everybody doesn't deserve to keep their jobs. And
fire everyone that's over at 108.9 The Hater. It's always fire everyone.
But listen, when it comes to this game, there are certainly things to correct, and there are things that need to be corrected immediately, because you're not going to really beat anybody playing like the way you did. I thought that there were certain things on the offensive side of the ball, specifically on the offensive line, that were pretty concerning. What did you see?
Absolutely. Massive protection breakdowns. And it's not where you thought it would be.
Yeah.
It was at the tackle positions. Garrett Bowles, who's been a stalwart for the better part of 2 seasons now, looked lost against a guy that called him out ahead of time, in that Ravens game. So, I think that Massey and Bowles really it felt like that Cush didn't look all that great. I thought Quinn Meinerz and Tiny Moody did pretty well, especially in the run game. Now, the pass game, they left a little bit desired.
But the offensive line in general struggled in the pass
But I thought they looked pretty good out there for being guys in their, ostensibly rookie seasons. I know Tiny Moody was a rookie last year, but it was, his second, third game he's been in. I thought Quinn looked pretty good. Cush looked, like I said, it was the stalwarts that looked lost. So that was a bit of a thing. We knew they were going to struggle with that defensive line. We knew Calais Campbell, Brendan Williams, those guys are a handful. We knew that was going to happen. But the fact they were getting Dia on the edge was kind of a problem. The receivers weren't getting separation, and they weren't hanging on to the ball. Albert O with a crucial drop. Cortland Sutton, 2 plays he could have caught the ball and didn't look like he was expecting it, or there was miscommunication there. There are things that need to be cleaned up, but let's start with the offensive line and getting that blocking down, and let's start with the play calling. You got to stay more balanced. You're down 10 points. You can't run the ball 4 times in the second half, have Locke dropping back 23 times, expect to win a football game.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting with Vic Fangio's comments about that. He was on the KOA Sports Zoo, and he talked a little bit about how, well, if you take away the last drive.
That's one way to spin it.
It certainly. And then he also tried to make the point that yards per carry don't really mean what you think they mean, as in, well, sometimes it's buoyed by big plays, and we can understand that. We can respect that. We talked about
had that.
Javonte had a big
Melvin's did mean that.
He did, and Javonte's run, he earned that. This wasn't This wasn't a breakdown by the Ravens. No. This was Javonte earning every single inch of that run.
That was a man points run.
That's right. So I would have said what's working for us and try to do a little more of that. And certainly, I went back and watched the game a couple of times. I see where Vic Fangio is saying there were several of those 3 to 4 yard runs in there that just didn't really feel like, they felt like kind of small body blows, but they weren't really getting accomplished. The thing that I guess bugged me more than that was what you've been, your bread and butter has been that mix of intermediate passing and the run. You did that to start out the game, and then you just started taking deep shots. And you just got into this, well, we're okay with being in 3rd and long. And by the way, the Broncos, did you see their average 3rd down to go was 8.9 yards in that game? And that is the reason why they only converted 21%.
You're never going to win with Teddy Bridgewater playing that way. Drew Lock can overcome that sometimes, but he's not consistent enough.
He did the one time at the very beginning.
Right, that's what I'm saying. So sometimes Drew will bail you out of that. Teddy will never get you out of that, okay? Drew will sometimes get you out of that. But the problem with Drew is you're going to be in that a lot because of the early stuff. So it's a 6-1, half dozen to the other. The reality of the situation is bleep balance. Dance with the one that brung you. I don't care if you run it 40 million times in the game. If you're continuing to get 3+ yards per carry, it doesn't matter if your body blowing them to death. Body blow them to death. Win on the CompuBox.
And it's going to help your pass pro, which obviously was struggling. And that's where, again, the adjustments, that's what something, look, you're only down 10 points at halftime. Probably could have been down more, but you were only down by 10. You had plenty of opportunity to still be in that game. That's something on the offensive side of the ball. I hope that they kind of take a look inside and say, this is something we can improve on. On the defensive side of the ball, we knew they were going to sell out to stop the run. We knew that was going to be the game plan. Mm-hmm. They worked very hard to make sure Lamar Jackson didn't beat him with his legs, and guess what? He didn't.
He beat him with their arm.
But he beat him with his arm, and that was open all day.
It was. And, Hollywood Brown, I know K-Jack took it personally when Brown got behind him on the 2-shell for the touchdown. A lot of people were trying to blame Justin Simmons for that, which was weird. That wasn't Simmons' responsibility at all. So it was that was interesting. K-Jack blamed himself. And you saw him try to make up for that in the second half with some hits and keeping his nose in there and all that kind of stuff. And he's a heart and soul guy, and that's who he is. But you can't let guys get deep on you. You can't let if you're going to shut down the run, by the way, you still have to play defense against pass.
Yep.
The Ravens did it. They bodyblowed you to death. 18 carries by Latavius Murray, 3.3 a carry. Even a 3.3 a carry, that's still they ground the Broncos down harder than that chick did Urban Meyer in the bar.
Oh my goodness. Okay, well. What I'd like to have seen, as I skip right by that, I would have liked to see the Broncos play a little more straight up. I think they could have, and I think they will play a little more straight up against the Steelers.
They will, but you don't do that against a mobile quarterback. The reason you don't play straight up is because your DBs, your back is to the quarterback. As soon after the snap, your back's to the quarterback, and you can't see what's going on. You're playing your man, right? So if the quarterback takes off, you've got nobody there to do that. That means you're removing your linebackers, your safeties, and your corners from contain.
But it felt like the game plan really all along for both sides of the ball was we think the Ravens are better than us, and we think they can beat us in multiple ways, where you're supposed to be a team that's imposing your will at home.
Now, there I agree.
That's the thing that bothered me about just the entirety of the way they approached it. Even some of the timeout usage we could get into, but more than anything, it just felt like the entire game plan was, well, the Ravens are the better team. What we're going to do is we're going to try to take away certain things and keep this thing close. It's the way they played the Kansas City Chiefs at Arrowhead, where they were trying to keep it close and just make one more play, and they just weren't able to do it. And part of that also, by the way, is getting turnovers on defense. That's something that this defense needs to be able to still do, even if it's a matchup like this.
Well, it's a twofold factor. If you're counting on big plays, then you have to make the big plays. You can't have the drops. You can't have the miscommunications. Alberto, Courtland Sutton, you just can't have those. And then the other side of that, if you're going to do that, you do have to get turnovers. They didn't get them. So that's the problem, is that playing that way can leave you on a dangerous edge as well. You're relying on low probability things to make a win happen. The higher probability thing is just play them to not beat you, and then turn around and do what's working for you to get down there and get points. You got to come away with points, period. You got to get yards and yards to get points. We overcomplicate football sometimes. And then I wanted to talk to you, said the timeout. Vic played that right. I'm so irritated with people with the timeouts because they're so wrong.
What about going into halftime?
No, he should not. They should not have thrown 3 times going into halftime. They should have run the ball.
One philosophy for the other.
Right. They should have run the ball going into halftime.
You decided not to call the timeout before they punted.
That was the incorrect usage.
So that's what I'm saying.
On that one.
Like
at the end of the game, though, where they let the clock run it and kept the timeout, that's the correct thing to do. The timeout is more valuable than the time.
I can accept that one.
Okay.
But
I've just been seeing people all day. And
one going into halftime.
Right. They should have run the ball. They threw 3 incomplete passes, and they just gave the Ravens an opportunity to score. It's just the anti-Vance Joseph, where he would chase points, throw the incompletions.
If you wanted to throw it there, that's fine, but then call the timeout before they punt. That way you have almost 2 minutes.
Right.
But instead they let the clock run as if they were going to run the ball, and then they didn't run the ball.
Right, which was ridiculous. And they should have taken a lesson from the last time they played the Ravens, when Vance Joseph allowed them to get the same thing happened.
All right, we will pick up the pieces tomorrow on Broncos Country Tonight and start to look ahead towards the Steelers. Thanks for watching.